It's 2022. I feel sick. I just clicked publish. Every project that I started ended up the same way. Abandoned. I'd just put up a video announcing the death of my latest project, Hoist. I had to stop. So I made myself a promise. If I didn't finish this remake, I'd stop making games forever. When I was younger, I always dreamed of making games. Not because I knew how, I didn't. But because I felt tethered to the worlds behind the screen. I wasn't technical, I wasn't trained, but I wanted to create. So I made games in PowerPoint. Point and click adventures held together by slide transitions and optimism. Then game maker experiments, half-finished ideas, disconnected prototypes.
The story mode. Oh, you thought we were done now, didn't you? But no, we've got more Jelly Bowl to show you first. So let's have a look at this. I doubt there's any options. Oh my god. It's got a date on it. It's like I made it today. Blob Line, the one minigame. Look at look how slow it is, man. Thing. Click to create platforms. I think that was like right click. Yeah, right click is dots. Middle click is squares. There was a way of doing circles. Q. Oh. I swear I haven't played it recently, but that's definitely a thing. So these, you can have a battle with these guys. What else can you do? Oh man, look at that enemy. What happened? What is that? When I press space, a fucking tree appears. Why is there a fucking tree? And why is that tree there? And why is it broken? Oh my god. 3 frames per second.
And even a slot machine pretending to be a level select.
I did, so we'll click on level 1 and hope there's something there. Okay. Nothing on level 1, level 2, nothing. I thought this was the most recent one. Level 3, oh god, don't tell me I put it in everything. Did I spend all my time making a vending machine?
I didn't really know how to finish anything. I blagged my way into a game development course at university. I met a guy called Callum. He was the first person that really taught me how to code. Game jams helped, deadlines helped, structure helped. But after graduating, I drifted into software development. Game dev stayed in the back of my mind. But every project that I would start alone would collapse under its own weight. Too big, too vague, too directionless. Here's when I tried to make Hoist. The video about abandoning it got more views than the entire project, which told me something. I wasn't alone. I wanted to bounce back. I planned a fake Nintendo Direct to announce small projects. Something manageable, something safe. And then I had an idea. If I couldn't finish a game without structure, why not just remake one that already exists? I chose Plok. But what even is Plok? Plok. I think we'll go for my definition. And to do that, we need to go back to 1993. I wasn't born. Plok is this guy. Or maybe it was this guy. Not entirely clear what kind of creature he actually is. There's some promotional material which apparently isn't canon, but it involves a wizard zapping some gloves, some boots, and a hat, and it turns into a living creature. The sound effect this makes is Plok, which means he might be named after the very first sound he made. Hi, sorry I'm late. And I've been on the Plok again. The game itself is a hard-as-nails platformer. Plok's main gimmick is that he has floating limbs. Before Rayman, might I add, and unlike Rayman, He's actually willing to sacrifice them. And yet Rayman is still arguably relevant and gets new games. Kind of. Plok can fire his limbs at enemies, switches, and dynamite. But don't worry, if they disappear, you can always find them on a nearby coat hanger. The game was so impressive that it even caught the attention of Shigeru Miyamoto, the man that gave birth to Mario. Jesus Christ. He was amazed by the audio, but supposedly he didn't get involved because it was too similar to Yoshi's Island?
Same, but different.
The goal of the game is simple. Get your flags back, get rid of the fleas, and defeat bosses. And you have some interesting ways to do that. We'll cycle back to that.
MetQuick asks, why remake Plok?
Fantastic question that I'll answer right here.
The real reason goes back to when I was a kid. A wee boy. I used to play Plok with my brother at my grandparents' house. We drag the Super Nintendo over, plug it into their tiny TV, and we get absolutely destroyed by the first boss. We were terrible at it, but it didn't matter. It was one of those games that just stuck with me. So when I needed a project with a clear scope, I chose the one game that had been quietly sitting in the back of my mind for decades. I knew that my best chance of finishing this project was to reveal it as a devlog series. I had some followers from previous projects, and I figured that public pressure might just be enough to get me through this. As a lifelong Nintendo fan, the best way to do this was a fake Nintendo Direct. The plan was simple. I had the Direct with some ports, a character creator, updates to old games, and then finally at the end, the real announcement, Remaking Plok until I get good. Before I could reveal anything, I needed a prototype. So I loaded up the original game and I started to take notes of absolutely everything. Can I somersault if I have no limbs? No. How does sliding work? Do I automatically slide if I have no limbs? Yes. But what if I'm holding the directional pad? Then no. Does holding down make me fall faster? Yes. Does holding down and then jumping shorten my jump? Also yes.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Did you know that Plok has a heavy breathing animation when he's injured? Or that the instruction manual literally warns you, don't fire all his limbs or he'll end up with a pain in the posterior? That's his bum. Once the research was done, I started to design my version of Plok. I went through a lot of iterations. The first one tried to match the cartridge art, which is this kind of clay-like look, and mine was horrific. Others were more minor tweaks based on a style that I felt more comfortable with. My final design, let's just say it was controversial.
Oh, that was a bad idea.
I wanted Plok to feel distinctly mine, and he does. People really didn't like that I gave him joined eyes.
How about this, Tom? Will you change Plok's art and separate his eyes?
No, he's my boy, and his eyes are the way they're supposed to be.
And the original Plok oozes style, while mine just oozes. Getting him to actually work in game was an absolute nightmare. Each limb was a separate object. This is because Plok's limbs can disappear and he can fire them. I felt like this was the best decision at the time. But having them all be different objects that need to stay in sync with the animations, it led to a lot of bugs. In fairness, it was complicated. I decided to add unnecessary polish early on, so I gave Plok this Sonic the Hedgehog style idle animation where he looks right at the camera. Because it's cool. Movement was done. Now I needed a level and something for Plok to shoot at. It was time for more research. To the beaches of Cotton Island.
What have you found out so far about Cotton Island?
He's not here. It's one of the big ones. No signs of any flags. It's possible they've been taken, which is kind of the problem. No signs of any enemies either. So, maybe we found one of the good beaches.
And have you found any inspiration about how Plok's world might have been created?
Yeah, I think they probably went, we could have a beach level, so let's have a beach level. Okay, let me try and reword it in an insightful way. When you stumble across some sand, to some it may look like sand, but to others, a beach level.
A beach level. There we go. And in Plok's world, how does he interact with water?
He dies.
Cotton Island would need sand, cliffs, trees, shells, and enemies. The first enemy didn't really suit my art style. If I simplified him like my Plok design, I'd be left with a yellow beanbag. It wasn't clear what the enemy was, so I didn't know what details I could try and add. The guide said this guy was called a sprout, and that makes me think of nature, things sprouting from the ground, so I wanted to go and add these little leaf propellers that would spin when he would jump. I love the design of this enemy, but I'd made a fatal mistake. I'd drawn it too small. Now, you might think you can just go into your engine and size it up, and you can, but then you end up with different pixel sizes, and that is a problem. So, I had to redraw the entire thing at a different size, and I never really liked this design as much as the original. I did learn my lesson, for the most part. I would put Plok next to the sprite I was drawing, so I can at least get an idea of what he would look like next to it. And then there were logs. Oh god, the logs. They needed to start moving as soon as they were on screen, and hurt Plok, not get stuck on him. On this level, they also had to make it far enough to reach the water to despawn. Now to do this, they needed enough speed. But not too much. Eventually I fixed it with some angle and offset calculations. And then I slapped a flag at the end of the level, and just like that, the prototype was done. It was time to publish the announcement video. The direct premiered on the 5th of February 2023, to not many views. But there were some nice comments. For the devlog that came out on the first day, it exploded. Suddenly, there was excitement, support, people cheering me on. I was doing it. I was actually remaking Plok. The reveal was a success. I jumped straight back into development at breakneck speed. In the second devlog, I asked an important question. What is a good amount of content? Then I went straight into the strange health system. Let's hear from Past Tom about how that works. The health system in Plok is interesting. Certain hazards will deal consistent damage, such as water always dealing 5 damage. Most hazards, such as enemies, will have their damage scaled. Notice how when I get damaged by this enemy, I take 7 damage. Yet this time, I only take 6 damage. My interpretation of this is that the damage is scaled based on how much health you have remaining. I had to recreate this for my fan remake, and so after messing around, it seems when Plok is below 8 health segments, the amount of damage given is reduced. I added fish enemies and even a saw item that lets you propel across the stage and destroy those f***ing logs. I also removed the logs at the start of this level because they're bullshit. We also have the boxing Plok power-up, which can also destroy logs. F*** you logs! These power-ups override Plok's animation collection, and they also override his firing abilities with custom events. Very cool. Next, I went ahead and...
Your goal over the next 48 hours is to make a game that fits the following theme. So, let us take on a role that we don't normally get to play.
Damn it, Mark. Okay, slight derailment. I made a Wario game, but for copyright reasons, it's a Barrio game. Essentially, it's like WarioWare, but instead of trying to win minigames, you're setting them up for the computer and setting the computer up to fail. Honestly, thinking about doing Barrio instead of Wario, I probably could have just called Plok a lock, block, or and gotten around copyright. I powered through the remaining levels in Cotton Island. We had lots of new powers like a shotgun and a flamethrower. Funny thing about the flamethrower, it uses sine waves, which is where the value fluctuates. I added Rockefeller enemies that hide under the ground under these signs, and when they pop up, they'll attack you. If you defeat them, you get these invincibility gems. These gems protect Plok from a single hit of damage. I added new flower enemies that I drew at the wrong size. Flower enemies that I drew at the correct size. Next, level mechanics like collapsible bridges and spikes. Moving platforms, which is also best explained by past me. After a lot of difficulty, we have this temporary platform that can follow a path. I try and get curved movement working for the platforms, with varying success. I added controller and Steam Deck support because it looks nice. Oh, and I made my own Plok font. The perfect font for handing in your resignation. Anyway, there were lots more stages, including a slide. The level Blind Leap taught me that if I added a trail to my character, I could see how far they could jump and then I could move platforms accordingly. There were secret stages, most of them had you using vehicles or collecting these pink shells. I started by testing these vehicles on actual levels rather than their own secret levels, just so I can get an idea of how they work. I started with the helicopter. The helicopter drops bombs and its level features sea mines every 2 seconds.
What is this?
Sea mine.
Sea mine!
By this point, Plok had a motorbike that fires grenades, a unicycle that fires some kind of chemical weapon that is probably banned by multiple international treaties. But Plok doesn't care. And finally, a jetpack that fires lasers. And the best part, all these vehicles could destroy logs. When they worked. So what do these secret stages actually do? What's the point of them? Well, the ones that have you collecting pink shells allow you to skip to the end of that level. When you beat a vehicle level, it lets you skip multiple levels, so this could be like 2 levels, it could be 5 levels, it could be a lot further. And this is great, unless you actually want to play all the levels. So what do we do then? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's add backtracking into the game because the original didn't support it. But first we need a world map. Started with the original game's map and I added nodes to represent Plok travelling along the map. Each node can trigger events like putting Plok in a boat, and they're aware of other nodes around them and their unlock conditions, and when you're on a node you can confirm it to go into that level. I added my art for the world map. This was a challenge because not only was it a massive sprite, there were also lots of little objects on there that Plok needed to be able to go behind, so I couldn't just draw them on the map, they had to be separate layers that could then have foreground and background elements. But what about the vehicle secret stages? If I take one of those, I'm further ahead in the game, but then surely I wouldn't have unlocked that level because I haven't done the levels that precede it. So for those, the warp overrides the level condition flag. So then if you backtrack, you still haven't unlocked all the levels in between, you still have to beat the original level that you teleported from. If that makes sense. For sound effects, I went through several iterations. To start with, I used mouth sounds because everyone loves mouth sounds. It's an easy way to add sound effects. This is my sound effect for Plok taking a dump. I also tried sound isolation, which is really cool. So it involves me taking footage of the game, so I would load up a level, I wouldn't go near any enemies or any other sound effects, and I would just like fire one of Plok's limbs, or I would jump as Plok. And then I would go into Audacity, put it into spectrogram mode, and here you can see the different sounds appearing, so you can actually like drag over the shape of that sound and isolate it, and then you can use that in the game. And it worked pretty well, unless you had multiple sounds playing at once, like in a video game where you have background music and enemies doing their own thing and the player doing its own thing. We need another solution to make this easier. And easier it got because a YouTube comment spelled it out to me. They told me that if I used a certain illegal piece of software, which I was already using, which I wasn't using because that's bad, you can actually turn off audio channels. So it took a little bit of tweaking, turning off like audio channel 1, 2, 7, blah, 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 to turn off the background music, and then I needed to make sure that I turned anything else off, but I still preserved the whole sound. Sometimes you turn off an audio channel for, I don't know, an enemy noise, but it also was the same channel that Plok used for this specific sound effect. So there's a lot of messing around, but you got such clean audio doing it. I did level transitions, a death state, and the original pause screen. I then began plugging my Discord in numerous ways. Discord. And Discord would become essential as development continued. Oh yeah, I guess join the Discord. The boss fights arguably have the best music. The first boss fight was the Bobbins Bro. Does that trigger my voice crack every time? The first boss fight was the Bobbins Bros. A twin boss fight for the first boss fight is kind of crazy, and these guys can be pretty challenging. They jump around and fire projectiles. It's a very claustrophobic fight. Trying to figure out how to get them to get a jump trajectory to the player was particularly difficult. I love how my versions came out. They're taller and skinnier, and they're mine. And I'm proud of the art. At the start of the level, they're nowhere to be seen, and then suddenly they fall down. They descend from these long chains and jump off at Plok. I achieved the same effect in Unity with a trigger area. The chain objects come down with fake bobbin brothers attached to them. When they reach the designated point, they get disabled and they jump off with the real bobbin brothers. This was the first time I also had to restrict the arena so you can't just ignore the boss and walk straight to the end. People told me the camera is too zoomed out, and I tried to box things in a bit more in later boss fights, but it's difficult because my game's widescreen and the original's 4:3, so I kind of naturally have to scale things out a bit. That was Cotton Island finished, but Plok still wasn't happy. He travels home and finds out that all of the flags on acrylic have been replaced by flea flags. Flagged. On to the next world. Acrylic. These new levels are completely different to what came before. It's no longer a simple journey to the flagpole. We now need to defeat all the fleas on a level to spawn in a flag. The first level of Acrylic is Garland Beach. This stage has a lot going on. The first thing I worked on were these targets. When you shoot them, something in the environment changes. These coat hangers will store the limbs that you hit the target with. When a target is hit, it can trigger events. I add a shake effect whenever the limbs are added and whenever you collect them back. One of the items in this level is a collectible that helps you build up a plot continue, which will help you continue from a game over. Since my version has a save system and no lives, I decided to create a replacement. I came up with these SNES cartridges as collectibles. These feature the original cartridge art if you squint really hard. The regular levels have grey cartridges and the secret levels have gold cartridges. Stick around because these will have a purpose later on. I ran through several strange designs for the fleas. Eventually, I settled on this faithful version. After bullying the flea for a bit, I moved on to movement and health. For context, whenever a flea is damaged, they change colour, which is a good indication of how damaged they actually are. Dark blue is full health, then light blue, then green, and then the flea is wiped from existence. Fleas jumping to a specific position was challenging. Eventually I got fleas to jump to the player with aimbot level precision. Then I nerfed it so that the player has to be within a certain range or else the flea just jumps to a random spot. I wanted to share some footage of some of the test areas that I do. This was a common one, using platforms to try and block the fleas in to see how they'd behave. And I ended up making it so that if they hit a wall while jumping, they should now change direction. Unlike some other enemies, fleas don't actually die if they hit water. Instead, they jump out. There are a few areas where Plok can go where I don't want the fleas to be able to go. So, to keep the fleas in a decent spot for Plok to hit them, I added these barrier blocks. And they look suspiciously like Minecraft barrier blocks. The fleas hatch from eggs after a certain amount of time, unless Plok triggers them early. These fleas, like bosses, also come with their own health bar. This tracks how many fleas remain on a level before the last one is defeated and the flag spawns. If the flag hasn't spawned yet, a flea flag can be collected instead, which heals Plok. Hornets can now be spawned after collecting hornet eggs.
To infinity and beyond!
They attack nearby enemies, and when they're not attacking, they circle Plok, which works flawlessly. You can only have 4 hornets out at once, and unlike the original game, there's a handy counter to show how many you're holding. The original game has this indicator, and it'll tell you that you have hornets that you can spawn. Next we added the enemy Orson, though calling him an enemy might be a bit harsh. He starts out trying to attack you with projectiles. He can be difficult to hit, but his projectiles move in and out to give you an opportunity to get closer and shoot him. Once you hit him, you're able to stand on him and use him like a jetpack. Eventually he disappears and resets to his original position. You can jump off him at any time, and if you hit a ceiling you will fall off. One thing that you may have noticed in my version is that Orson visibly struggles to carry Plok. I was also uploading frequent comparison shots to keep the motivation going. What's the worst that could happen? Turns out quite a lot. As fast as we'd started, it was over. I felt scope creeping back in. It should have been obvious. The previous devlog had this massive text saying, "Still early footage." It was like I knew that my skills were about to fail me. No other video I'd made came with this kind of disclaimer. I had a rough idea of what needed to be done to finish the game, but I didn't expect so many changes all at once. I never thought that a slope, of all things, could lead to a mental breakdown. This level had tons and tons of slope variations. I didn't want to copy the exact same slopes as the original. I wanted my game to be in its own style, as unique as a game clone can be, right? So I started drawing similar slopes, trying to end my pixels in similar spots to the existing ones. But the amount of slope variety was monumental. Not only did I have to try and create lots of variations to map out the level, I had to try and find these slope variations in a growing tile set, and they all kind of looked the same. It was incredibly common for me to be working on slopes and things not quite fit right, and literally have to go back to the drawing board. It became unmanageable. The downside of having all the level art ripped for future levels is that I can look ahead. Imagine starting school and they give you all the homework you'll ever do, and you skip ahead to see what your final year of homework will look like. Not only do you have a huge amount of work to do, but you know it gets worse, and when progress is slow, it feels like you'll never get through it. When I look ahead, I saw lots more slope colours and variations, spherical tile sets, huge maps, and features that I'd need to implement. The level I was working on already had tons of new things.
The first stage of World 2, Garland Beach, introduces a lot of new mechanics and a lot of art that we don't have. We've got lots of new tiles, hornet egg, hornets, Plok with hornets flying around his head, targets, coat hangers to collect Plok's limbs, stretching platforms, flea eggs, fleas, Orson, another secret shell stage, new flea flags that heal you, new water, UI for how many fleas are remaining, tilting houses, destructible terrain, these collectibles that give you a Plok letter. So yeah, this might take a few videos to implement. I tried a few things. I tried going against my more unique art and I tried to trace it all. I started drawing over the level map and trying to build a level there. But again, finding the right pieces to avoid redrawing the same tiles over and over again was a pain. I tried exploring with A-Sprite as a sprite sheet, with remove duplicates turned on. It wasn't quite perfect and extra tiles were included where objects were overlapping them. On the same level there were also tilting platforms, and I had no idea how to make a system to easily change the tiles that I wanted to be tilted. When I look even further ahead to the level after, I saw circular rotating platforms. I'd struggled massively to implement regular moving platforms, let alone these ones. So hours of work per day became minutes, and eventually it became nothing. What was the point anymore? I'd stopped. "5 months later, light at the end of the tunnel. I can't be defeated by slopes. I'd have to power through it. I knew I needed a way back in. So what worked? I eased myself back in by getting small gains. For example, one day I wanted to do something that wasn't drawing slopes. I decided to draw some art that I'm not even going to need for a while. I drew Gershwin, an enemy that doesn't even appear for a while. This helped me feel like I was making progress again, even if out of order. I added a rudimentary save system to make it easier for getting footage. I've not got to play through a bunch of levels I've already done to get the post-level cutscenes to play out. I created a bunch of emulator save states at different points in the game to allow me to quickly zip back and forth. Then came the slopes, and also what I refer to as flea mess art, the blue slopes you get. I had to brute force it and forget about being as faithful to the original level. If I made a slope for every horizontal edge to meet every vertical edge, then I'd be able to meet any angle. It might not have as many nice curves in the art, but I could build bigger inclines to compensate for that. I could have less interesting slopes. I did my flea mess slopes separately on a different layer, so I could just add the flea mess over any future art. Sure, it was a pain to draw those lines and set up their colliders, but at least I didn't have to think while doing it. It's just simple lines. It helped break through a standstill. I could finally map a level out. We were back on course. Once I'd finished mapping out Garland Beach, I finally figured out a life system equivalent. What's that at the start of every level? This is my life system based on UK traffic lights. Lives are pretty outdated in platformer games, and many modern games opt for a small punishment, like losing a few coins. Well, my game is a remake of a Super Nintendo game called Plok, which had lives and no save system. One way that it tried to help with difficulty was to remember the progress of how many fleas you defeat in a given level, even if you lose a life. As the levels can be long and challenging, I still needed this behaviour in my version. Therefore, I give the user 3 lives to essentially beat the level without losing progress against defeated fleas. But you still get the benefit of an instant respawn if you run out, and you do not lose overall game progress. To balance this, your score after losing is equivalent only to the number of fleas you've defeated, and not your full previous score, as everything else like collectibles does respawn. If I was going to add a game over screen, it would look something like this.
For the first time in months, I wasn't stuck, I was moving forward. Next up was the level Sleepy Dale. This level featured rotating platforms. And bees. Bees nuts. They're similar to hornets in the way they circle Plok, except they attack you, and they spawn from bees' nests. There's a cap to the spawn for obvious reasons. At the time I thought this was a big map. Remember that. After Plok defeats the fleas in Sleepy Dale, we move on to his house. Plok falls asleep against a statue of his grandfather. We get this ripple effect as we fall asleep. I achieved this by applying a shader to the camera's output. There were definitely bugs with this cutscene. Look at that short neck king.
Nice to meet you, nice to meet you.
And finally, we fall asleep. This boots us into Legacy Island, a world set in the past, and it introduces our second playable character, Grandpappy Plok. I wanted to be able to swap between characters at will, unlike the original, so I added a character select screen inspired by Super Meat Boy. When you play as Grandpappy, every level is in black and white. Legacy Island was actually originally intended to be the first set of levels, but it was found to be too difficult. This world doesn't introduce too many new mechanics for us. I added an older looking font for it, and instead of end level flags, Grandpappy digs in dirt piles looking for his amulet. He finds all sorts of random garbage. Including some shoes that the Discord believes belong to the Bobbins Bros.
Shoes that I picked up in Mexico. Ooh, this is
Fortnite.
The boss here is once again the Bobbins Bros. Except this time there's a third brother, Irving. He actually cameos in the comics, so I used that colour scheme. Not that you can tell. Anyway, we defeat them and we dig up a treasure chest with the amulet inside. Then we wake up. The statue runs off and Plok gets the amulet. This gives him access to the rage system. My version is a little different. In the original, you would mash the shoulder buttons to build up rage. This lets you somersault as a saw blade. It's kind of difficult here to tell how much rage have you built up and how long will it last. Therefore, I came up with this radial icon that shows just how much you've built up, and you can slowly see it ticking away. You also don't have to mash, you can just hold the shift button. Now that I had a character select screen, I decided to add 2 brand new characters. Going back to those cartridges, these unlock when you get a golden cartridge on a secret level. These characters are Pen, who needed their own hair animation layer, and Gloveless. Yeah, this is Plok with hairy hands. They're in the comics, okay? Yeah, so Pen is an independent character, but my character Gloveless is just this version of Plok based on a single panel where Plok has hairy hands. Plok is potentially extremely hairy underneath those clothes. It's probably not canon. Around this time, I had my first go at doing proper animation using my drawing tablet. With this, I tried to mimic the intro animation. I think it came out pretty well for a beginner. For the next level, we need to head over to Plok Town.
So Tommy and Plocktown, what you thinking?
So doing some field research, looking for Gershwin. Can't see any, can't see any flea eggs either. Possibly Plok has already been through the area and cleared it. What you can see is some of the Gershwin habitats out in the distance. Going to continue the report.
This town has a lot going on. We're introduced to those Gershwin enemies here. They take 2 hits in quick succession to defeat. They go into this almost X-ray look when you hit them. There's also a parachuting variant that fires projectiles. Sometimes you'll catch them spawning infinitely near windows or nearby cauldrons. This level also has tiles that swap between spikes and platforms. To do this, I just gradually turn on different tile maps. Did you know that you can enter one of the buildings on this level? Because I didn't. It takes you to this cool secret area where there's a new enemy called Big Bud. He fires out small flowers that fire out projectiles. It's easiest to defeat him with hornets if you have them. If you defeat him, he might drop a healing item. If you collect enough silver shells here, you can access the bottom of this area. Here, you'll find a new power-up, Rocket Plok. He can fire rockets in 4 directions at once. He is by far my ugliest power-up design. We're making too much progress now. Damn it, Mark. Okay, minor detour again. I made a game where you scale a collapsing building to reach a helicopter at the top to then escape. I reused the builders from my game Hoist. I don't know if I mentioned that one. But yeah, that gave me a little bit of closure on the project. And it was genuinely a really fun game to make. Whoops, we got distracted again. For several months. At least that's how it seemed on the surface. From the outside, everything looked fine. After August 2024, it looked like I was still developing the game. But the truth was, I wasn't. Between August and December, life got really complicated. I won't go into details, but it was an incredibly difficult time for me. I was just trying to stay afloat. Development completely stopped. On top of that, I had to move house, and for various reasons, I felt like I was completely starting my life over again. At the new house, I didn't feel comfortable recording at all. I really didn't want my neighbours overhearing me say, "Join the Discord." I felt stupid. So before the house move, I pre-recorded videos, and that's where the illusion began. Those uploads that you saw between December 2024 and March 2025, the Penkinos, the jungle, and the creepy forest, none of them were real progress. They were recorded months earlier, giving the impression that I was still working. I'd added a new boss, the Penkinos, along with some much loved Discord emotes. They inflated, deflated, and fired projectiles, and you had to time hitting these column spikes to hit them. It looked like I was adding a cool jungle level too, with rock pillars, extendable tiles, and a sea monster that went through lots of ugly designs. There were boulders, basically more logs, and an entirely new music remix system, taking music provided by the Discord. And the final video, before the silence, was on the creepy forest. I put a lot of effort into the background fog effects and fixing the spinning doors from the original, by making them more forgiving, and suddenly, radio silence. There was the first gap, August to December 2024, where I wasn't doing any development at all. And then there was the real gap, April 2025 to January 2026. In terms of development, I'd been gone almost an entire year. I didn't even do the GMTK Game Jam. Sorry, Mark. During all this, something else was happening. I was getting positive comments from people that liked the project and wanted to know when the next update was. It should be good and it should be motivating, but they kind of terrified me, because I knew privately I wasn't working on the game. I wasn't living up to the expectations people might have. Every kind comment felt like pressure that I just couldn't meet. At the same time, the negative comments were piling up, mostly from the YouTube shorts that I'd been releasing. These are from people that probably weren't subscribed, and they didn't know what the project was, or why I was doing it. They just saw a simple graphics comparison between A and B. Comments saying my version looked terrible, that I'd ruined the original game, that I should stop. When you're actually struggling, that stuff hits harder than it should. It was a strange mix. Pressure from people who believed in me, and discouragement from those who didn't. It made me question the point of continuing at all. I'd sit at my desk, open Unity, stare at my project, and then close it. Days passed, weeks passed, and then months. I was stuck, overwhelmed by life, overwhelmed by the project, and overwhelmed by the pressure. This was the year that I lost. I started working on the game again, in secret. No devlogs and no pressure. I didn't want to return publicly and lose momentum again. If I came back, it needed to stick. I'd already let people down, and it couldn't happen again. So I made a deal with myself. Finish the game first, and make the videos after. I needed a comeback. Fortunately, I'd actually already finished the next boss, I just never pre-recorded it. Once again, I didn't think I had enough content for a devlog. There was also this small issue that I'd left behind. I designed the boss around the size of the player sprite, but it still looked a bit small. I really loved this design though, and I feel like it played really well at this scale. Eventually, I realised I'd just have to go with it, and I was just going to have to accept people's opinions on it. In order to ease myself back into new developments, I chose something different to do, but within the project's boundaries. 3D Plok. This is the version of Plok that appears at the end of the game to give you a high score. Translating Plok into 3D wasn't easy. But it was fun. It was fresh. This became the foundation of my first video back. It's been a while since the last devlog, I'll be honest. Nothing dramatic happened, I just needed to step away for a bit. Over the Christmas break, I properly picked things back up again, and rather than over-explain that, I want to get straight into showing you what I've been working on. Next was another level that slowed down development, but I just kept chipping away. I didn't work on it every week, but I also didn't stop. I still loaded the project every day to convince me to do more. There was another huge stage, like Garland Beach, but this time it was an even more towering level, with more slopes. I got through it by telling myself the level layout doesn't have to be exactly one-to-one with the original layout. Plok fans are passionate, but I was hoping they'd forgive this. I added new exploding targets. I absolutely love this explosion effect. I added support for targets that will only accept certain limbs. And I got to add the most useless power-up in the game, Cowboy Plok. He's worth it for the soundtrack alone, but this fake gun of his has absolutely terrible range. Yeah, he fires out a flag instead of a bullet, and you have to get so close to an enemy to actually hit them, while they're also trying to jump at your face.
I ain't gonna lie to you, this is not ideal.
I also deleted the logs from this stage. Then came the infamous level, Go Home Cavern. Oh boy. You lose your limbs throughout the level, and end up hopping along. You lose your limbs. It's a challenging one. I made it easier by not letting these new shielded Gershwin variants flip when you hit them. They do in the original, and it makes it so hard to line up your second shot. But in terms of creating the actual level, honestly it was kind of a breeze. Next level, new weird looking flowers. Done. New looping waves. Not perfect, but done. Secret motorbike stage. Done. Next boss fight. Rocky Fella.
How's the research going?
It's going really well. No sign of Plok, but I'm having fun. No signs of Rocky Fella yet. Gonna keep going, see if we can find him.
This was a massive sprite to draw. So I tried a new strategy. Draw the silhouette first, then add in the details later. This really worked. It made the whole thing seem less overwhelming. I started with his hands coming out of the ground. I added some ground effects to cover up the placeholders. I added some projectiles that the hands can throw. I set up the boss's health, and when he appears out the ground, he can be damaged. I mapped out the level, and added this cool dust storm to make it seem like Rocky Fella's affecting the whole environment. It was coming together. Add a new character? Okay, fine. Why is Rayman here? Yeah, Rayman is now an unlockable character. Now in theory, we should be moving on to the final world now. However, this entire time, I told you there was one main promise I'd made to myself. Finish this game, or I'll never make games again. Well, I actually made myself a second promise when I chose Plok. During the research phase, I found out that there was actually quite a bit of cut content that was documented. This was the introduction to what I feel was my best ever devlog. Over 30 years ago, a game called Plok would release on the Super Nintendo. Later, fans would discover something strange hidden inside the game's data, references to 3 completely cut levels, and 3 power-ups that never made it past the concept stage. Only their names survived. Breezy Beach, Bad Dream Fens, and Brendami Bog. It's believed that these levels were originally meant to appear after the Rocky Fella boss fight, but before the final world. And looking at the game's map, there's a suspicious path leading to a southern beach, one that could have connected to an entirely missing journey, through the swamp and towards the final world's entrance. So I've set myself a challenge. I'm going to rebuild these lost levels, designing each one with its own gameplay twists, and bringing these unused power-ups to life as fully playable mechanics. Join me as I recreate these forgotten stages inside of my Plok remake project. I did so much content in such a short period of time. The first new level was Breezy Beach. I themed it around moving upwards. It had new wind gusts that would carry you and your limbs in that direction. It allowed for some cool jumps and a pretty cool puzzle. I added my first cut power-up, Robot Plok. He comes with an energy shield that can damage enemies, and it can be fired out like a boomerang, which is great for collecting items. Then came Bad Dream Fens. This level was themed around horizontal movement. The original game never really had a fen or a bog biome. This meant I could really flex my creative muscles. Green water, reeds, pumpkins and lily pads. Even Grandpappy shows up. And there were these awesome bubbles, and they give you great ASMR. There are these new frog enemies that fire electric shocks at you. There are new dragonfly enemies that you can only defeat with power-ups. Speaking of, Super Plok, an absolute unit. He has higher jumps, and he comes with a combo system. After you fire your hands out, he fires a destructive laser. The next cut level was Brendami Bog. The theme of this level was moving downwards. Twisted trees, waterfalls, narrow passageways, and bone jaws that you can't defeat without power-up, which I didn't give the player. As you come back to the surface, you see these swamp wizards that hide in cauldrons. Up here, you'd also find the final new power-up, Ninja Plok. He fires out shurikens every time he somersaults. We were now approaching the final world, the flea pit. Let's check in. Momentum was faster than ever. Progress was starting to take its toll on me. I was waking up early to work on the project. I was using my lunch breaks to work on my project. And even after my day job, I was working on my project until about 2 AM. My girlfriend had been cautiously observing my progress. She knew I needed breaks to avoid burning out, but she also didn't want to interrupt my flow.
What was it like being around me towards the end of development?
Awful at times. Like I say, I'd message because obviously you're stuck in a room and you're doing things, and I try and reach out to you after work or something when I'd get home fairly late at night because I was working midnights, and you'd still be up. Although I know you're doing something that you loved. I was worried about you. Not to say that it was bad, because obviously something great's come out of it. But you're a very worrying person to be around. And I love you for it.
The crunch was real. Uploads were consistent again, but only because I developed so much ahead of time. Only one world remained. It's kind of surreal, but after 3 years of remaking the Super Nintendo game Plok, it's finally time to add the last world, and it's easily the strangest one yet. This one requires a lot of new enemies and vehicles. In order to reach this world, we must first descend into the depths below. Welcome to the flea pit. I had to add yet another world map, and some annoying moving platforms that move when you hit them. There were these strange new flying fleas that would hatch from these big eggs. There were ones that would stand still and fire projectiles. These kind of look like the pea shooters from Plants vs Zombies. And finally, there were ones that would jump and fire. So how do you beat these levels? Vehicles. Every level in the world, you need to use a vehicle. Most of them you've already seen by this point. The new ones include a truck that fires rockets, a UFO that fires lasers, and a tank that doesn't knock you back when you fire, unlike the original. And then, the final boss. Not just of the game, but of the journey that I set out on 3 years ago. Here, Plok gets a new transformation to defeat the Flea Queen once and for all. He has this canister that he can use as a weapon against her and her offspring. He jumps continuously with these spring boots. I made it so that he can quick drop while holding down to avoid projectiles. The Queen is relentless, hatching enemies, firing projectiles, and dropping from the ceiling to box Plok in. But in the end, just like Plok, we prevail. The Flea Queen is defeated, and the credits roll. Not just for me, but for all those that contributed music to the game. We're treated to Plok in his chair, sleeping. The rest, after so much work. The series was called Remaking Plok, until I get good. The problem is, getting better doesn't really stop. 3 years later, there are still things that I change. There are still things that I learn. In fact, there are probably enough lessons learned that I could make a video by itself. But this project was never about becoming the best developer. It was about proving that I could finish something. I'd gotten so many suggestions along the way. Character additions, subtle references to other games, and requests to end the cut levels with a brand new boss. I stewed on these ideas for a long time. In fact, that's one of the reasons this video is late. For adding a new boss, I felt a bit restricted by the environment that we left Plok in, the swamp, and it was no longer cut content. Those ideas deserve their own project, not to be crammed into this one. The character ideas, they were plastered to my fridge for a long time. I wanted to add Strongbad as a character. I hadn't seen him in a while.
It's WiiWare!
WiiWare.
So you download them over your internet-style connection.
Get out of town. What are we waiting for?
June of 2008.
I got so excited, I forgot everything you just said.
Strongbad's cool game for attractive people.
And honestly, he'd look pretty normal with floating limbs.
I wake up every morning feeling awesome. Even though I slept on the remote again last night. Ow! Time to tear up another day. The Strongbad freaking way.
I wanted Glowbox to go alongside Rayman. Rystar would be cool, a Bobbins bro, and from the community, Dynamite Heady, Pomni, and Little Runmo. Some of my own cut content included adding unique art for every character's power-up and vehicle. The important thing was proving that I could add that system, and I'd proven it with pens. At some point, I stopped developing on the Steam Deck. I'd proven that I could do it, and it was a fun novelty while I had it. I had ideas for characters joining the main menu as you unlock them. Imagine seeing Pen, Grandpappy and more playing their own unique instruments alongside Plok. I even thought about adding a shop into Plok's house. This would be run by fleas stacked on top of each other in a trench coat, like Vincent Adultman in BoJack Horseman.
I mean, can you imagine this body in a swimsuit?
I literally cannot.
Here, you'd be able to buy extra levels with the grey Super Nintendo cartridges. I pictured another additional world called the Flea-Gotten Isles, with some levels inspired by The Legend of Zelda. I thought of Plok wearing Link's tunic and hat, and in the devlog introducing this, we'd see Plok falling through the sky, Tears of the Kingdom style. And for power-ups, Plok would get access to Link's different abilities. I clearly hadn't run out of ideas or technical challenges that I wanted to try, but the game was already complete. But this project was also about scope, and I'd shown that I could control it. We move on to new projects for a reason. We don't have to cram every idea into one game, and we don't have to keep that game going forever. Finishing Plok didn't mean running out of ideas. It meant knowing when to stop. By doing this project, I'd proven that I could make and finish a full-size game, and that I shouldn't stop making games. I want to end by going through some of the submitted questions, and some that I think people may ask. If your question isn't here, it might have been sprinkled throughout the main video. And I'd also like to politely ask you to consider liking and subscribing. Feel free to ask more questions in the comments.
So, Snick the Porcupine asked, are you going to redraw the 2-year-old assets? And are you going to get other people to redraw them?
So, no to both. I think if I was going to release it, I would probably redraw them or get someone else to. But because it's not going to be released, I think it's just representative of where my skills were at the time and what quality I could do to keep momentum going. So I think next project, hopefully that would be better. So I think you stick with what you got.
Mathia asked, hey Tom, what's up?
Nothing much. What about you?
Do you know Rayman Redemptions and Redesigner? And do you think one day we'll get a community like that on Plok?
I haven't looked at that project yet, but I will do shortly, and I will answer it back at my desk.
So I just took a look at the Rayman Redemptions trailer. It looks pretty awesome, I'll be honest. It looks clean, it's got widescreen, it's got new content. I'm not going to compare it to my Plok remake because I know exactly where mine stands in comparison. So let's not do that because that's not healthy. But yeah, looks awesome. I should definitely get around to playing it.
With the community question, I don't think it will unless Plok has an actual official remake or it comes out on like Virtual Console or something, because it's not fresh on people's minds. Rayman's had 2 remakes come out recently, and people are clamoring for another game. So I don't think we're there yet.
On to the YouTube questions. Finally. Surfer has asked, do you plan to transform at some point into the community that will remake abandoned classics?
Kind of. One of the things I enjoyed with this project was coming up with original content for the cut levels and cut power-ups. And I think that it would be cool to not necessarily remake lots of games, but to go and find bits of games that was cut and then go and add that. It'd be like a what-if scenario, play now.
Sorry for my face and going.
I don't know.
I think a fly hit me. Rich asked, is there anything that you would change about the remake if you could spend more time on it? I imagine over a 3-year period you've improved as a developer, so there might be some mechanics or levels that you're not satisfied with.
I know I touched on art earlier. The backgrounds are where my art is not as good, just because it's a bigger piece of artwork. And then when it comes to actual programming things, I would say the vehicles are the most buggy, and there's a lot of takes trying to get the footage to look how it should on a YouTube video. And then I would say the moving platforms as well are a little bit balked. Not so much the rotating ones that I did later on, but the original ones are kind of messy. Also, when it comes to like jumping through platforms, when you have curved platforms, sometimes you get stuck if you hit things not at the right angle. So I think I'd revisit those, and I'd probably not make the game with the physics system. I'd actually do it with like manual gravity stuff. I'd do position-based movement instead.
Walter End asked why choose Plok as well, but also asked, were there a number of specific parts of the game that you intended to improve? They also subscribed.
Subscribe and like my channel.
Thanks for the sub. On behalf of Big Man.
So I think we touched on why Plok and a couple of other bits that I might improve. So I think something else that I could improve.
He looks very handsome.
Thank you so much. What would I improve? So one thing that I do need to fix is to do with the end of level animations. It looks pretty jank when Plok's looking up at the flag, and a lot of levels I've not positioned the flag quite right because it's not grid based. You just place the flag down and it can be like pixels off. So sometimes Plok's floating in midair. Pen's character looks particularly weird when she's putting the flag up, and she's got this like weird blocky hair behind her. So yeah, fixing up the animations I think would be a big one.
Zeox asked, which boss was the hardest for you to remake?
Hardest to remake. So let me just think what bosses we got. So we got Bobbin Brothers twice. There's Penkinos, which is a wizard boss. There's the Womack Spider, Rocky Fella, and the Flea Queen. I think some of it is the time that I did it. So the final boss wasn't that hard because I'd done lots of bosses by that point. Rocky Fella was fun. I enjoyed doing like the hands coming out of the ground and that kind of thing. So that didn't feel difficult to me because I was having fun doing it. So probably would be the Penkinos. I had to revisit doing like sine waves and stuff. And managing lots of enemies. There's 4 bosses in that level. So yeah, probably them. Even though it doesn't look like that complicated, that was probably the worst one to make.
Gnomestein asked, if you got permission, would you release this publicly?
It depends. I think if I released it publicly, then it's going to need some more work because there are like occasional problems that I need to sort out. There are a couple of characters that probably want adding because there are enough collectibles to warrant more characters. I would also say that I don't just need to check it with the creators because I don't quite know where the rights are held up. It would probably be one of those things where it's like, we won't sue you, but then will some other company that's involved with them originally, are they going to do that? And then the same with people that have submitted music. I'd actually probably need to sign an agreement with them to say, you know, they're not going to cause any problems for having their music out there and that they're happy for it to be distributed.
Tannison asked, have you read the Plok comics? And if Yes. What is your opinion on it?
So I have read the Plok comics. I haven't gone through again recently. From what I remember, there's some cool world building stuff in there. There's a lot of meta jokes, and I do think they're not as timeless. Like there's jokes about the Xbox One and Kinect, and it's like this is a bit dated. And I think they stepped a little bit too much into that, where things do seem a bit old. It's worth a read, and it looks like they were doing some cool stuff with comics, but unfortunately, it seems like they've stopped. So hopefully, they come back and can finish some of those storylines.
Side question: why do you think they stopped?
Got bored, I guess. No, I don't know. The whole website went down and stuff, so who knows?
Mystery the Nowhere Man asked, "What's your favourite track in the original Plok?"
So off the top of my head, the first answer is the boss theme. But one of the themes I came across a lot when I was adding new levels, because it was kind of a placeholder, was the Go Home Cavern track. So hopefully I'll play that now, because I think that is one of my favourites.
Voxed asked, "What are your plans in the future?"
So, on this first take, I would say that there are a couple more Plok videos I want to do. One of them is everything I learnt doing it in a more technical video, and maybe some more YouTube shorts just about cool bits from the development. And then I'm either going to go down creating my own game, which I can release, or trying to remake other games. It wouldn't be to the extent of this one, where it's remaking the whole game. It'd probably, here's like the cut levels, like I mentioned earlier, or here's a segment from that game, just to see how it would look in my style. Yeah, I'm not going to remake another game for 3 years.
Final question from TikTok. Not really a question, really. Not really a question. From TikTok, Ryo fan said, "Cool."
Very cool. I like.
What did you enjoy making the most?
Thank you for asking. I enjoyed adding new characters. So Rayman was really fun to add. He was different to the characters because I added in like custom collectibles. I had to space out his limbs and things more. He was quite different. Putting together the trailer was really good as well. So I got to use some awesome Rayman music, and it was probably quite a surprise. He's also heavily tied to Plok because of the whole like similar mechanics going on. And then the cut levels was really fun to do. So the new powers, figuring out how I can make mine different to what's already in the game. And the cut levels as well, the mechanics on that. So I have another thought that is processing that was coming. And I think it was just that making that video was really fun as well. Like doing the story of over 30 years ago and making it really dramatic, that was fun.
Did you hope to achieve anything else within this project?
Yes, funny you should say that. I hoped to bring some more attention to Plok. Maybe get Plok on Nintendo Switch Online. Hashtag Plok on NSO. Let's get it going. And yeah, kind of grow my community as well. Like, yes, it was a project to help me learn and with a specific scope and everything like that. But it's also a way of interacting with new people. It's it's an established franchise. It's a niche one. I think we've got a nice community on Discord around it.
The biggest question of all, Tom. Will you ever return to Plok?
Maybe. Will you, babies? Will you return to Plok?
That's an insert, that.
Your hair changes dramatically, from short to long. Do you wear wigs?
No, I do not.
Have you worn wigs?
No, I have not.
Will you wear wigs?
Maybe.
When will you wear wigs?
Will you return to Plok?
Maybe. Yeah, so I planned more with Plok originally. I might have already mentioned this earlier in the video, but I thought about adding an actual 3D Plok level for getting like 100% complete, because I did model Plok as well. So maybe if it was like 3D Plok or a Plok sequel, but I think at the minute I'm all Plocked out and I need a break, do something else.
Do you regret anything?
Yes, and I don't think I need to look at my cheat sheet for this answer. I regret some of the gaps that I took. Some of them, there were more than just being lazy behind them. But it would have been good to keep people informed and say, like, if I was stuck on something, just tell people I'm stuck on something, they might have some advice, rather than going silent for the most part.
The question keeping everyone in suspense. Will you ever make a full original game?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have plenty of ideas floating around. I've had some for many, many years, some that you're aware of, but you're not allowed to leak because they're very cool.
Leak?
So, yeah, maybe.
What advice would you give to new developers?
So I would say that you don't necessarily have to follow my footsteps and make a remake, because, you know, it took me 3 years. It probably didn't need to take 3 years, but it is a big time commitment. And if you've got an idea and you're motivated, you want to get it done, go for it. Chances are you've got different lessons that you need to learn than me. Mine was get stuck in, get something finished. But if you want to experiment, do lots of game jams, you know, try lots of stuff out. There's no harm in abandoning a project if you're, you know, if it's not fun. Just follow the fun.
On to Charlie's questions.
Charlie's questions. Okay, I'm putting this away. These have got to be on the spot.
So Tom, I come from a teaching background, and what we used to do at school is WWW and EBI. For those of you that don't know, that's what went well and even better if. Could you please tell me what went well and what would be even better if?
Oof. I got it done. That was a big thing. Music, I said I wasn't gonna mess with because it's got a really like amazing soundtrack that people are obsessed with. I was like, I do not have the music skills. I cannot learn these in the time that I'm also developing everything else. But the Discord community came through with that. And we got lots of remake music, which is really good. I got to make changes and they didn't have massive backlash. So I added like save system, backtracking, new levels, new power-ups. People seem to welcome them, so that went really well. Even better if I'd planned things a bit more. So like early on, I had a notebook of every single level and every mechanic that came through at that point in time. And even though that I knew they were coming, I didn't add all the mechanics at the start. I think typically with game dev, you will make your character, like if you were making a 3D game, you'd make your character, you do ramps of different inclines and see how the character reacts on it. You do moving platforms, all that kind of thing. But I did it very much in order, partly for the devlog series, so you can see, oh, Tom's going to be on that level next, he's going to do this. But it would have made sense to do all that at the start and plan all that out.
I've seen you late at night, working hard,
yeah,
forgetting to eat, having work, full-time work, 5 days a week in between all of it. And yet you have been so dedicated. And I'm just really proud of you because it's your baby and you've let it grow. Just for the side note, before I'm asked official questions, I have enjoyed the experience.
You're talking to the camera?
Yeah.
Sure. How have you found helping on this video?
It's been frustrating at times. You have really, really tried your utmost to make sure that your baby has been like perfect. And it's been really difficult to watch you at times. I think everyone assumes things run smoothly when they don't. I've seen you very frustrated at yourself, at how long things have taken. You've been really bad at timekeeping. Everyone assumes it's easy. It's not. It's really hard to keep someone and tell someone to stop when they're doing something they love. Reminding you to eat, reminding you to sleep. Having like little bits of things to suggest to help out. It's been a little bit difficult, but above that, it's been enjoyable. It's been something which I wouldn't change for the world, and I'm really happy that I've been included.
Do you think I should have done anything different?
Probably. A few things. You've already sort of mentioned it, but it's sort of the timekeeping stuff where obviously this project turned into a very, very long journey that predated me. And I came in much closer to the end, really. And I think that if you'd have set yourselves regular targets and made them smaller targets so that if one day it didn't turn out, you had that diary of, oh, tomorrow I've got leeway to do this, Maybe things would have moved a lot smoother for you. Whilst I'm saying, yeah, you should have kept a diary and you should have made it a lot easier for yourself. I know it's not going to happen in real life. I think you did really well considering you had everything against you.
Charlie.
Hi.
So far, the video is 6 minutes long. There have already been 6 drafts that you have been forced to watch. And I want to know, first of all, in advance, because it's not finished yet, and you're going to have many more drafts to watch.
Many.
How has the experience of watching every tiny incremental change been and watching the video from the start every single time?
Can I direct this to them?
Yes.
Basically, whenever I get sent a section, it's not just that section, it's not just that chapter, it's not just a few 30 seconds from that segment. I get sent the whole thing again. And I watch it from the beginning again. I'm not forced to, I'm not asked to, I just do. And I'm excited. I'm not being forced to say anything. People can think that watching the same video on repeat can be very boring, but I get to see the full-on enjoyment that you get out of making the video, out of the millions of bloopers that have already come to fruition in 6 minutes of filming. 6 minutes of filming. There's many more. There's nothing else I'd rather do at 11 o'clock at night when I have finished work and I'm tired and Tom's working all day at work and working all evening on at this and I get to watch it even though I'm tired because it puts a smile on everyone's face. I'm not gonna lie, because you can see the enjoyment that he gets out of making this.
Don't shoot. I just found out I forgot to record like 10-15 minutes of footage. I didn't click record. I felt like I was going to pass out.
And it helps put you to sleep.
It helps put me to sleep. I have it on repeat when I'm snooze enough. But no, I have no regrets over putting that on repeat. Especially the intro, I'm not gonna lie. It looks very scary and sad at the beginning.
Who filmed those shots?
What are you doing, bro?
I can't reach.
I'm cameraman.
I actually have another question.
No.
It's not a proposal.
It's happening!
It's happening in the Plok documentary. 2 more questions, sorry. I'm cooking. Do you think it's insane to make a documentary about yourself?
Not when it's a mockumentary.
Okay.
Documentaries are very boring. If they're about yourself, they're very self-obsessed. The way that this is going, it's very much closer to a mockumentary, I think.
Yeah.
And you're able to laugh and enjoy it. I think it'd be great to make a mockumentary about myself. So I just love the fact that I'm part of this one.
So, what would you rather be doing right now?
Can you put in sad music for this?
Can you not look down? There's a massive drop behind.
Ah! It is Friday night, and I could be on a date with my loving and devoted boyfriend.
You had ice cream that you paid for.
And right now it could be date night, where I am being treated like the princess that I feel like I should be. But instead, I'm making this video, and it's really, really fun. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing than this.
You bait. We've had a lot of people ask what I should do next. What do you think I should do next?
For starters, I think you should take a well-deserved break. I think that you should touch grass. Remember the outside world for a little bit.
I was looking around, but it's just a lot of soil.
There's a lot of soil around us right now, but you know, get back in touch with it nature.
I will soil myself instead.
And I think that when you're looking up, it will help you ideas for ideas when you're looking back down at the keyboard, back at the screen, and just get ready for the next project. Dun dun dun! Thank you for the interview. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If you're interested in seeing the full journey with all the technical details, the devlog series is available on my channel. Thanks for being part of this journey, and I hope you'll stick around for what comes next.
And my final question, when will you put a ring on it? If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. He doesn't have a mic, so he can't answer. When will you put the actual one on it?
Those are
Again.
disengagement rings.
Basically.
Basically.
That's why I gave you mine.
It's turned off.
Okay, that's the end.